segment 4, part 2 of our 57-day Grand Pacific Voyage. In this part, we're going to visit Middle-earth, along with one of its most prominent towns, Hobbiton, as well as making landfall in Tauranga, and then Gisborne, New Zealand. First up, Tauranga, before boarding our magic bus to transport us to Hobbiton. Tauranga in the Maori language means resting place or safe anchorage. Tauranga is also known as New Zealand's sunny capital with wide sweeping beaches and is a mecca for surfers. It is a coastal city in the Bay of Plenty region and the 5th most populous city in New Zealand. Tauranga has an urban population of 162,800 people and was settled by the Maori people sometime in the 13th century and then later colonized by Europeans in the early 19th century. It was officially constituted as a city in 1963. But we weren't staying in Tauranga, we were off in search of Middle-earth and hobbits. So we jumped on our magic bus and headed toward Middle-earth, the Shire, and of course, Hobbiton. Now, I have a confession to make. My name is Tom, and I am a geek of sorts. I have long been a fan of The Lord of the Rings, nay, science fiction and fantasy, and am a certified nerd/geek in this respect. I had read the Lord of the Ring books by J.R.R. Tolkien as a young man in the 60s and then reread it in the 70s. I still have a copy that I purchased shortly after the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy movies released at the beginning of the 21st century. The actual Hobbiton movie set is located not, of course, in Middle-earth, but is instead located on a working sheep ranch near the small New Zealand town of Matamata. It's easy to see why Peter Jackson picked this locale for Hobbiton. The rolling countryside is stunningly beautiful and almost otherworldly. The Hobbiton movie set was used in 2 trilogies, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and is now one of the top tourist attractions in New Zealand. We had traded our magic bus for another magic bus that dropped us off here. Getting off the tour bus, we followed our tour guide down this mysterious path. And I have to say, as soon as we walked into Hobbiton proper, my little geekish heart fluttered at seeing the hobbit holes, or more correctly called smiles, dotted around the lush, beautiful landscape. There are 44 different smiles populating Hobbiton, including Bag End, home of Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. All of them, except 2, including Bag End, are movie facades and have no interior spaces. Regardless, the movie set magic and the exteriors of the Hobbit holes are rich in fantastic detail and will transport the willing traveler to a place quite different from the plain old mundane world we actually live in. There is a full-time staff of 70 landscape artists and a host of folks that keep the details and the magic in pristine condition. One of the rules on the set is if the gate is closed in front of the Hobbit hole, you should go no further. If the gate is open, you are welcome to enter and check out the fantastical little details that make up what constitute the front yards of the smiles. Quickly notice as you walk through Hobbiton is that there are plenty of fellow tourists walking the paths with you. However, the tours are cleverly staggered to minimize bunching up of the many different tour groups on the property. And no, that bread is not real, it's just another movie prop. And as you continue your tour, you'll finally see off in the distance, one of your last stops, the Green Dragon. As mentioned earlier, there are 2 complete Hobbit hole interiors, and 1/3 exception, which is this one partially hollowed out Hobbit hole and fantastic photo opportunity. And eventually you will find your way to the home of the protagonists of the books and the 2 different movie trilogies. And that would be Bag End, home of Bilbo and Frodo Baggins, framed and maintained in loving detail by the staff at Hobbiton. As you move around Hobbiton, you'll find that many of the smiles have signage that reflects their imaginary owners' occupations. This, for example, is the village beekeeper's Hobbit hole, and the gate was open, so we rang the bell to try to get some fresh honey. But sadly, no one was home, so we continued on our way, walking toward the village green and the faraway Green Dragon Inn. Descending from the hill, we entered the village green. As mentioned earlier, there are 2 significant exceptions to the movie set magic, and they are fully furnished Hobbit smiles that can be visited while on tour, although each tour group will only visit one of the 2 Hobbit holes. One Hobbit hole belongs to the 2-foot family, and we had the good luck of visiting the Hobbit hole that belonged to the Proudfoot family, relatives of Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. The inside of the homes are decorated in a rich and fantastical style and detail, all scaled to the average height of a hobbit, which is 3.5 feet. According to our guide, just don't climb into the beds, but any chair that is out can be sat in, and the props, as these at the desk, can be picked up and handled. Just please don't abscond with any of the props. From a real fire in the functioning fireplace to the family tree proudly displayed over the mantel. The details are endless and impossible to absorb fully in the short time that you have to walk through the Hobbit hole. The master bedroom even has a ensuite bathroom with what appears to be a hot water kettle and a fully functional necessity closet. There's even a kitchen where it appears that Mrs. Proudfoot is rolling out some dough for her famous apple pie. Here's the spot where all the little Proudfoots were measured as they were growing up, documenting their growth spurts. We finished off the tour with the dining room and a laundry room before exiting the Hobbit hole and continuing on our way toward the Green Dragon Inn. And there is the Green Dragon Inn growing ever closer along with the mill. As we kept walking, skirting the little lake, we passed the farmer's market. And I think, as with the rest of the movie set, none of this is edible, as evidenced by this groundskeeper dusting the fruits and vegetables. Although, I could be wrong. And just like that, we were crossing the bridge at the mill and bound for the human-sized Green Dragon Inn. At the Green Dragon Inn, you have just a few minutes to relax and enjoy a complimentary pint of ale, a glass of hard cider, or a soft drink. And after enjoying the inviting interior of the Green Dragon Inn, where you can purchase another drink if you like, or a pastry from the shop, lounge about in the great room for a while, head outside for more fantastic scenery, and then begin your trek back to the tour bus pickup location that ferries you, unfortunately, back to reality. Back on the bus, we were on the road once more, headed towards our ride home through beautiful fields of green, dotted with the most populous inhabitant, the 40,000 plus sheep on the operational sheep ranch that is home to the Hobbiton movie set. On board the magic bus, once more, we made our way to nearby Matamata. In this small town of 10,000, also known as the gateway to Hobbiton, we were going to have lunch. And lunch today would be served family-style in Italian restaurant Osteria. They had quite the spread waiting for us, and it was very good. However, due to a miscommunication, or what I suspect was a miscommunication, the food was rather cold. And leaving the tiny hamlet of Matamata, which was, by the way, extraordinarily busy for the size city it was, we made our way back to the Silver Muse, climbed back on board, and enjoyed a sail away filled with tugboats and sailboats. And in Tauranga, one could see that they are very serious about their sailing. Our next port of call was Gisborne. Gisborne has a population of about 38,800, and the area was settled over 700 years ago by the Maori people. Our excursion today was a steam train to Muriwai. The Gisborne City Vintage Railroad operates the only WA-class steam engine still operating in the world. The steam engine, the WA-165, was built in New Zealand in 1897. It was rescued from a playground in 1985 and has been restored to full operating condition. It is also the only train in the world that crosses an active airport runway and has to pause going in either direction to obtain clearance from the tower before crossing. As we steamed through the countryside, we found out that everything runs from the steam engine. The horses run from the steam engine. cows run from the steam engine. And sheep run from the steam engine. As we made our way to Muriwai, we crossed the longest rail bridge on the North Island and found out that even ducks run, or in this case fly, away from the steam engine. Soon enough, we are at our destination, Muriwai, where we had a special treat waiting for us. The local school was practicing up for their regional haka, and we were asked if we would like to witness that. As explained to us, the haka is a form of social protest against the predominantly white New Zealand government by the Maori peoples. But regardless, the kids were all in, so enjoy the haka. And when the haka was over, it was time to climb back aboard WA-165 and head back to Gisborne. Sedately but noisily, rolling past the derelict and abandoned train station, leaving Muriwai. Back in Gisborne proper and caught a glimpse of the Silver Muse on the other side of the harbor. Disembarking the train, you are welcome to walk up to the engine and take a quick tour and meet our train engineer, who was happy and proud to show off the cab of the WA-165. And after saying our goodbyes to the all-volunteer crew of the Gisborne City Vintage Railroad, we made our way back to the tender dock, back to the Silver Muse, and enjoyed a beautiful sail away from Gisborne, New Zealand. Later that evening, after changing for dinner, it was once more to Atlantide. For more about Atlantide and all of the dining venues aboard the Silver Muse, stay tuned for our upcoming dining and drink guide. Well, that's it for segment 4, part 2. Please do me a solid and like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be kept up to date with new releases. And be sure to join us for segment 4, part 3 of our Grand Pacific Voyage. In part 3, we're going to visit Napier, New Zealand, and the capital of New Zealand, Wellington. And if you have the time and the inclination, please check out some of our other trips and titles on T's Cruise and Travel Muse. Thank you for watching, and safe and happy travels.